Coming up on Network Africa, the National Emergency Management Agency in Nigeria distributes relief materials to victims of tanker explosion in Dikko, Niger State. Rapidly spreading fire destroys property of unknown value in Nyahururu town, Kenya, as vandals loot. Plus, Tanzania confirms Marburg virus outbreak after initially denying the case. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olainde in Lagos, Nigeria. We begin here in Nigeria with an update on the tanker explosion in Dikko of Niger State. The National Emergency Agency, Management Agency, NEMA, has distributed relief materials to victims of the ensuing fire in the state. During the handover, NEMA's Director General, Mrs. Zubeida Omar, expressed empathy for the victims and emphasized that the assistance reflects President Bola Tinubu's commitment to supporting the affected communities. While the Director General of Niger State Emergency Management Agency, NSEMA, Abdullahi Baba-Ara, appreciates the federal government on behalf of the Niger State government for their timely intervention. Speaking at the event, the Niger State Deputy Speaker, Honorable Afiniki Dauda, cautioned the community against actions that could lead to similar incidents in the future, emphasizing that the Gbagi people are known for their hard work and resilience. The Republic of France has committed to providing advanced technology equipment, funds the geological data of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, as well as upgrade the laboratory in order to enhance mining activities in the country. According to a press statement by Kehinde Bamigbeton, the special advisor to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake, and France's interministerial delegate for strategic minerals, Benjamin Gazlot, met on the sidelines of the ongoing Future Minerals Forum in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and drilled down the Memorandum of Understanding signed last month in Paris. Speaking further, Mr. Gazlot announced that his department has commenced screening a list of French companies that have applied to invest in Nigeria's mining sector and would forward the final list of verified investors soon. Mr. Alake, however, appreciated France for working with Nigeria to produce the MOU despite severe time constraints during the visit of Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu to French President Emmanuel Macron, adding that attempts by political opponents to misinform the public about the genuine objectives of the MOU have been significantly neutralized. We're still talking about Nigeria. Governor Dikko Rada of Katsina State has announced reform in the state education sector, warning education secretaries across the state against indiscriminate teacher transfers. The government further warned against late coming of primary school teachers and students, an action which he believed has been hampering the progress and development of education in the state. The governor, who announced this when he launched the distribution of key educational materials and resources worth billions of naira at the Katsina Old Government House, said unauthorized and indiscriminate teacher transfers would not be condoned.
As the Katsina State government moves to reform the education sector in the state, educational materials worth billions of naira have been procured by the government in collaboration with a Transforming Education System at state-level project. The project aims to increase equitable access for out-of-school children, improving literacy rate and learning outcomes, and strengthening accountability for results in the state.
A team-based system project being able to ensure seamless project coordination and operational efficiency of the coordinating unit. special needs equipment and instructional materials for the School for the Blind and School for the Deaf, promoting inclusive education and equal learning opportunity for children with disabilities. 25,000 copies each for the 14 mathematics, computers, English book series for primary 4 and 6 to improve literacy and numeracy outcome while ensuring curriculum alignment.
Governor Rada also warns against late coming of teachers and students, especially at the primary schools, attitude which he said has been hampering the progress and development of the education sector in the state.
I have received reports of late coming of both teachers and students to schools. This has been hammering the educational progress and development in our various primary schools. Starting in some time and in some locations, you go 10 o'clock in the morning, but students and teachers are not in schools. We have to hold someone responsible for this. And I want to assure you that I have focused my attention now to the visitation of schools, both primary and secondary school, to ensure that people go to school on time and they deliver on what they are responsible for.
Commissioner of Basic and Secondary Education, Zainab Musawa, represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, says this initiative is not just about providing resources, but also laying a solid foundation for equitable access to education, fostering literacy, among other benefits.
This initiative is not just about providing resources. It is about laying a solid foundation for equitable access to education, fostering literacy, and creating an accountable and result-driven system. It is about giving every child in our state a fighting chance to succeed in life and become an active participant in the socio-economic development of our communities.
The state government reaffirms commitment to improving the welfare of teachers, something it has already started through a system of rewards for dedicated educators in the state.
Away from Nigeria now to East Africa, property of unknown value has been destroyed after a massive fire broke out in Mangwo on the outskirts of Nyahururu town in Kenya. The blaze reduced dozens of rental structures to ashes. Eyewitnesses say it started in one house before spreading to adjacent structures. Residents have been forced to work together to salvage household items that they could reach. However, the fire rapidly consumed the wooden structures as the residents looked on helplessly. Well, some residents' belongings were looted by opportunists, exploiting the chaotic circumstances, according to officials. The situation was then worsened when the fire department ran out of water, making it impossible to extinguish the inferno. The cause of the nighttime fire is yet to be established, but initial investigations suggest that it might have been started by a candle in one of the houses. Well, joining us now for more on this is Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati. He speaks to us virtually from Nairobi, the capital. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having the show.
So how does this situation stand now at this point, and how far is Nyahururu from the capital, Nairobi?
Thank you for having the show. Nyahururu is almost 200 kilometers away from Nairobi. As you said very well earlier on, this fire is actually suspected to have started by a candle in one of the houses before it spread to other houses. Many families, almost 20 families, are left homeless so far as we talk, and they are seeking refugee at some local schools and churches to get help from local administration and other churches, which are kind of helping them. So far, it will take time for them to construct the houses which were affected, and which is also costly, and that's why they are seeking for help from the local administration and national government to help them to construct the houses.
There have been 3 recorded fires in 2 days in Kenya, and if you recall, there was also a fire at the University of Nairobi about a week ago. Help us understand why, this is happening. Is there a reason, perhaps the weather, or what also does this say about the safety measures against fire in the country?
Well, even not only the University of Nairobi, as you have said earlier on, because as we are talking now, there's a fire which is ongoing in a place called Isiolo. So Isiolo is also almost 200 kilometers away from Nairobi. And these are places where we can say it's more of a forest because it's dry now. Most parts of the country are actually dry, and then the weathermen are saying that it's going to be like this for the next 2 or 3 weeks because the temperatures are also higher, and we suspect that a small trigger of a fire it causes a huge kind of damages. As we are speaking, as I was saying around in Isiolo, there's a huge fire which is extinguishing a whole kind of forest. Here at the University of Nairobi, it was burned the other day, 2 days ago. It's a historic structure which was burned down, and the cause of the fire is not yet established, but there's an indication that it started from a kitchen which is housed in one of the rooms that were affected. So far, as mitigation measures, just a wait and see because as you see in Nyahururu yesterday, the fire extinguishers ran out of water. It was the first kind of fire to happen in that area, so they didn't have such kind of experience or readiness for such kind of fire. So it's a learning experience or lesson as we move on, as we are talking now.
Well, Sarah, so as to avoid, a repeat of this, because a fire outbreak is a devastating disaster. Have we heard from the government or government officials? What are they saying about this frequent fires, especially if you've indicated that the weather is dry? So it's very possible that we might have more fires at this time. But what is the government saying to people, especially victims that have suffered these losses?
Well, they're just coming in to help, kind of blankets, water, food, and all that. But then those people are living out of the country or out of Nairobi. They are being advised to avoid kind of throwing things like cigarettes and howling because there's a likelihood a fire may be started where you are throwing a spent cigarette. People are being asked to be cautious whenever there's fire which was broken out. You need to raise an alarm and call the firefighters. They're just doing more of a civic education to people to prepare people for such kind of disasters. In Nairobi alone, we have so many slums here where every day we have fire incidents breaking out. And the firefighters are saying they are overwhelmed by the incidents which are being reported daily. At least 4 incidents reported daily in different slums in Nairobi. It is overwhelming to say the least because the resources they have are also kind of squeezed. So it's an issue where people are fighting to contain what they have a little to be able to survive one way or the other.
All right, Cyrus, just before I let you go, away from the fires, the U.S. has a new president, Donald Trump. What is the mood like in Kenya, reacting to President Trump's second coming to the U.S.? And I'm asking this in relation to, Kenya-U.S. bilateral ties.
Well, it was a mixed reaction because remember the outgoing President Biden had a close relationship with President William Ruto here in Kenya. He hosted Ruto in the U.S. Just last year, and now coming in over Trump and the number of measures he has announced since he came to power, it's an indication that things are going to be tight or tough in the country because you see. There are so many donor funds which he has said are not going to come. Kenya is among those countries that are receiving such kind of donations. So people are kind of scared. To say some are scared, yeah. Some are happy that Trump has come to power because he's going to bring orders. They're saying the issue of there's also division about the issue of LGBTQ. There are so many issues that we are on discussion, but Generally, last night, as Trump was taking an oath, everyone was glued on TV watching how he was taking an oath, and there was a mixed kind of reaction from here and there. It's a wait-and-see issue.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Sarah Sombati, Kenyan journalist from Nairobi.
Thank you for having me the show.
The chief spokesperson of the UN Human Rights Office, Ravina Shamdasani, is warning that the conflict in Sudan is taking an even more dangerous turn for civilians. She was speaking at the bi-weekly press briefing in Geneva. Her remarks follow reports that dozens of civilians were brutally killed in ethnically targeted attacks in the southeastern state of Al Jazeera, including its capital Wad Madani, and amid reports of an imminent battle for control of Khartoum.
The conflict in Sudan is taking an even more dangerous turn for civilians after reports that dozens were brutally killed in ethnically targeted attacks in the southeastern state of Al Jazeera, and amid reports of an imminent battle for the control of Khartoum. As the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces battle for control at all costs in this senseless war that has raged for close to 2 years now, direct and ethnically motivated attacks on civilians are becoming increasingly common. The situation for civilians in Sudan is already desperate, and there is evidence of the commission of war crimes and other atrocity crimes. We fear the situation is now taking a further, even more dangerous turn. Retaliatory attacks of shocking brutality on entire communities based on real or perceived ethnic identity are on the rise, as is hate speech and incitement to violence. This must urgently be brought to an end. We once again call on the President of the Transitional Sovereign Council and the Commander of the Rapid Support Forces to put an end to the fighting. We call on both parties to uphold obligations under international humanitarian law and international human rights law. The SAF and the RSF are responsible for the actions of groups and individuals fighting on their behalf. Let us be clear about that.
In the meantime, the UN mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, known as MONUSCO, has announced that hundreds of combatants from the Zaire armed group have laid down their arms. Deputy spokesperson for the Secretary General, Farhan Haq, acknowledges this action as a first step towards facilitating the reintegration of former combatants, including women and young people, into civilian life. Deputy spokesperson for the Secretary General told journalists in New York that during a ceremony held recently in Bunia, more than 85 weapons and munitions were also handed over to the mission. This development, according to Haq, is a first step towards facilitating and the reintegration of the former combatants.
Our peacekeeping colleagues in the mission in the UN mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, MONUSCO, report that over 600 combatants from the Zaire armed group have laid down their arms. This took place in Mabanga, in Ituri province's Jugu territory. During a ceremony held recently in Bunia, more than 85 weapons and munitions were also handed over to the mission. This development, supported by our peacekeeping colleagues and the government of the DRC, is a first step towards facilitating the reintegration of former combatants, including women and young people, into civilian life. They are receiving support for agricultural projects, income-generating activities, and community recovery programs.
To health matters now. After Tanzania's health minister initially denied a Marburg outbreak, the president, Samia Hassan, has announced that there is indeed one confirmed case. Speaking at a press conference, the president announced that the case is in the northwestern region of Kagera. On January 14th, the World Health Organization reported a suspected Marburg outbreak in the country, having recorded 9 suspected cases and 8 deaths over 5 days in Kagera. Tanzania has now set up a rapid response team, and President Hassan is optimistic of overcoming the challenge. Meanwhile, the cause of the 8 deaths is yet to be revealed. Marburg is highly infectious, with symptoms including fever, muscle pains, diarrhea, vomiting, and in some cases, death through extreme blood loss.
Marburg virus disease in
And in what appears to be an about-face, Mozambique's main opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, says he is prepared to serve in the rival government of President Daniel Chapo. He, however, says this is subject to the president meeting his demands to end the political crisis that has hit the country following disputed elections in October 2024. President Chapo's, on his part, says he has set up a team that's considering whether his rival, that's Mondlane, should be invited to join a new and inclusive government. The two men gave the impression that they are open to reconciliation after about 300 people died in post-election violence. Mr. Chapo was officially sworn in as president on January 15, about a week after Venancio Mondlane held his own inauguration to declare himself the people's president. Britain's Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, is in support of the new U.S. administration reviewing a deal with Mauritius over the future of a U.S.-British military base in the Indian Ocean. Under the deal, Britain, which has controlled the region since 1814, would cede sovereignty to the Chagos Islands, a former colony that became independent in 1968 and the last British overseas territory in Africa, to Mauritius. It would also retain control under a 99-year lease of the military base in Diego Garcia, something that outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden had said would secure its effective operation in the next century. But Marco Rubio, Trump's pick as Secretary of State, had said the deal poses a threat to U.S. security by ceding the archipelago with its U.S. base, long-range bombers and warships to a country allied with China.
The arrangement that we have on Diego Garcia basically has kept the global community safe since 1973. It's been in some jeopardy because of rulings in the ICJ and the United Nations. That's why the last government began negotiating a new deal for the Chagos Islands. They went 11 rounds in negotiations. We picked that up. We came up with a deal that was supported by the Pentagon, the State Department, and the White House. It's right and proper that Donald Trump looks at that deal and is confident about that deal. But I would say that this has been through an interagency process in the United States, and I suspect he will come to the same conclusions as the last administration.
While South Africa is still reeling from the horrific death toll at the Stilfontein mine rescue operation, one illegal miner claims the police were trying to kill them while they suffered underground without food and water. Clement Moletsi is one of the hundreds that were rescued from the abandoned mine, whose life has now come to a complete halt, he says, as he laments losing his only source of income. The 34-year-old was selected by members of the local community to be pulled to the surface due to his frail condition on December 9, before police took control of the rescue operations. After being rescued, Motletsi, who is the main breadwinner and has a 2-year-old daughter, was immediately detained. He was held in prison for 21 days before being released on bail.
We end up eating cockroach, other people end up eating the dead body of people. I swear. I can see a big...
Miners were eating other miners, like
other miners, yeah, the corpses indeed.
Because why?
Because there were no food. There were no food. We were struggling to eat. So at least you see there's something that I can eat. Even the leaves of the trees, if they were available in underground, we were going to eat them. We were eating everything that they think it was going to help us to get better in the stomach. Yeah, to get us alive. And when I sleep when I'm alone at night, normally I see a lot of corpses and then I end up crying and not believing that I am still alive. So that was a situation. And sometimes I got that vision of seeing someone falling down because of hunger, and even picturing myself falling because of hunger, because I once be that person falling because of hunger. So normally I'm trying to pray harder that I should forget, but I don't think I would forget. I was being pulling out by the rope. Yeah, so when I arrived outside there were police officers surrounding me, searching me, as if like I killed people down there. So I was very surprised that I'm hungry. I was fighting for my survival, for my life, but I'm being searched like I'm a criminal, like someone who killed so many people. And I got arrested for 21 days. We did suffer because of Operation Palamkoti. Because their intention was to kill us. It was not like they want us out of the mine. They were trying to kill us alive.
South Africa's opposition party in Parliament, Action SA, has expressed deep concern over the severe consequences of the collapse of the Development Finance Agency, Ithala Bank. This follows the Reserve Bank's Prudential Authority filing for its provisional liquidation, signaling yet another failure among state-owned entities. Despite these developments, the government has assured Ithala Bank's retail depositors that their funds will be safeguarded and guaranteed throughout the ongoing liquidation process. Action SA Member of Parliament Alan Beasley doubts any meaningful reversal is possible, highlighting the severe impact on vulnerable customers who cannot afford to lose their funds.
September last year, Action SA raised the alarm that without a capital injection by the KZN government as the shareholder or by National Treasury, Ithala would not be adequately capitalized, and consequently, its collapse was inevitable. 4 months later, exactly as predicted, the Prudential Authority announced recently that it had applied for the provisional liquidation of Ithala, citing the need to protect the best interests of approximately 257,000 depositors of Ithala. Ithala's latest assertion that it will oppose the Prudential Authority's application provides no confidence that anything meaningful can be done to reverse the bank's collapse, the impact of which, most importantly, falls hardest on its customers who simply cannot afford to lose their money.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa. I'm Layo Olarinde.